So let me start off by saying that this is actually the second step of this process. I actually had glued some 2x4's together in order to create this circle, and then I used a router. But unfortunately, that footage did not record. So this is the second stage in which I am now sanding my wood rounds in order to get them a shape. And I use 80, 120, and 180. And then I moved on to the next phase, which is I wanted to go ahead and use wood filler in order to fill in any gaps, any holes. This is the wood filler that we have on site, that we just had on hand. However, it's a darker tone wood filler, but I knew that I was just going to sand it down anyway, but it did give it a nice contrast. You'll see later in the footage that I decided to go with a darker tone stain. And then after that, as you can see, I am just sanding down all the extra wood filler and just giving it a nice clean line. So let me take a minute to introduce myself. My name is Sabrina. I live in the North Florida area. I have been married for 25 years to the love of my life. And one of the things that we have learned to love is DIYing. Now, normally on the back end, I am the assistant to my husband. I'm the one who likes to do all maybe I would probably say the visioning or the visionary, and he is the executor. But on this project, after all the years of watching my husband execute all these beautiful works of art, I wanted to go ahead and step out on my own and try something by myself. Now, I'm not ashamed to say that I did have to call my husband to get some assistance on some of the steps of this coffee table, because I decided to go extremely aggressive, cutting angles and doing things that are probably what I would not consider to be beginner level, but I think that they were accomplishable. And I think that anyone, if they just put their mind to it, can definitely accomplish the goal. So now here, as you can see, I'm taking these 2x4's, and I really wanted to get them nice and smooth by using our planer. This is just super helpful to me because it just, as much as I love sanding, this does alleviate the amount of sanding and the amount of dust, because when I do this, I really can just fine tune and polish the wood once it comes to the final phase of me sanding. Like I said, I used and needed my husband in certain areas, and getting my router together was one of the areas where I needed his help. And you know, he's my bestie, and he knows 100% how to use these tools, and I'm learning. So don't be afraid to ask for help when help is needed. And that's exactly what I did. So now I decided that I wanted to give the edges of my legs that I'm currently working on, I just wanted to give them a nice finished, soft, routed look to them. So I'm just taking my router and going along the edges. And as you can see in my beginner stage, that I was a bit confused, and I finally figured it out. Just clamp it down to the table, and it worked out. So now I am using my Craig jig cutter in order to make pocket holes in the legs. Please excuse my vocabulary when it comes to some of the equipment and some of the tools. It's something that I am working on. And also, please forgive me with some of the angles of the camera. I'm still learning how to do camera angles and be aware of situational awareness when it comes to my camera. It's a learning curve, so please forgive me. But back to the topic at hand, I'm cutting the jig holes for the legs to the table so that way I can go ahead and install them to the bottom or the underneath part of the tabletop. The nice thing about this Craig jig table is that it's just super easy to be able to use and just super efficient. I literally just lay the wood down on the table. The hole for the Craig drill is literally underneath the table. And I literally just push the handle down and it automatically drills. So now I am drilling my holes or getting the layout as to how I want the legs out for the table. And again, this was a learning curve. I actually did not install these correctly. I had to take them all the way back off and reinstall them again. But again, when you're learning how to do things on your own, it actually is practice. And nice thing about it is that you can just start over. So I wanted to show you my imperfections as well as the things that I have learned while doing this project or the process along with doing this. I did get it on and I was happy initially with how the tables had come out, but they weren't straight. So as you can see, they're not straight. I'm like, I'm trying to figure that out. It is not working out. Trying to figure it out. It's not working out. And I was just getting frustrated. But I knew the vision that I had for this project. So back to the drawing board. So now you can see that I took all the legs apart or took them all off, and I actually drew lines where I wanted the legs to go, so that way they can be parallel from left to right, top to bottom, on both sides, so that way the table could sit evenly. The legs could sit evenly on the table. And then my husband, of course, my super encourager, is in the background just giving me advice on the best ways in order to use the drill, to get the pocket holes or the screws into the pocket holes, showing me how to lay it. But he's allowing me to be Miss Independent and training me to be able to do these things on my own. So he was super encouraging, giving me all this advice and helping me out, because there were some points where I was just completely stumped on what I needed to do. And he was helping me out with that, because now I'm at the phase where I'm like, oh, good, let's go ahead and got the legs right. But now I need to get that second or bottom half of that table on. And I wanted to create notches in between, but I did not want to mess this up. So here he is helping me figure out how to create these notches on these legs without damaging this tabletop that I spent all that time gluing and sanding and getting it all together. So one thing I can say is don't be scared of the power tools. As many times as I have seen my husband use power tools, probably the only main power tool that I have really used by myself without supervision is a sander, because I'm good at that, and a screwdriver. So me being in here by myself using a jig to cut these notches was super scary for me. And I'm telling you, I was using all types of power tools, as you can see. I learned to use a router. I learned to use a jig Craig table. Now I even used a table saw at one point. And all of these things I was using with minimum to no supervision. Probably my best thing is just make sure that you are practicing safety first. Making sure you're wearing your PPE equipment. As you can see, I have on eye protection. I probably should have on some ear protection, but the sound to me wasn't that loud and compared to some of the power tool equipment. But don't be afraid. Just do it. And just be safe when you're doing it. Follow the instructions. Make sure you do your due diligence and your research before you do them. But we got this. And if you make a mistake, it's okay, because you can always just do it again. And that's what I did. So again, don't be nervous about using the power tools when it comes to being able to do things and get projects or things that you want to get accomplished. So as I'm cutting out the notches, I'm just stopping, I'm looking. I want to make sure that they're square as possible, so that way they can fit in the holes of the table. So every now and then I would get them all in. I would take the cutout notches and then I would put them down in the table. Now, buyer beware, I am not a carpenter. I just had a vision. I knew how I wanted to look, and I was taking the necessary steps in order to be able to get this table how I wanted to look. So woodworkers, don't come after me, but also give me guidance in the comments as to what steps could have made this process easier, because I'm all about any type of advice that can make me successful or make my job easier if I ever wanted to do this again, something similar. When it comes to working on the wood project, I'm all about perfecting my craft, or all about just learning things more efficiently that I did not know. So as you can see, I'm tapping it down, taking it off, putting it on, notching it out, squaring it up, so that way I can get it down far enough to where it can have about 1 inch or 2 inch space and not touch the floor from the floor. And it is actually coming together. Like right here, I'm starting to get excited because I'm like, yes, it's finally getting where I need it to go. I'm tapping it down and I'm like doing the praise on the inside, just because my vision is starting to come together as to how I want this table to look. So here I'm just starting to tap it down, kind of get a visual as to how far I want to get the table, the bottom half of the table, to line down from the, or line up from the floor. The table is upside down right now. So I'm measuring each leg of the table just to make sure it is even, and making sure that everything looks good. So the round tabletop did not fit on the Craig jig in order for me to effectively drill the holes that I needed to. So I had to break out the hand Craig jig or the hand jig in order to make my pocket holes for the tabletop. So as you can see, I drilled them, had to get my husband to show me how to use it, which is okay. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And then I'm just trying to get it back in place as to where I want the tabletop to sit, so that way it can look good, and get it at the height where I wanted it to be at. I dry fitted every inch of this piece just to make sure it was where I wanted it to be. And then I also just made sure that it was level, so that way it can be level as I'm sitting the things on the table. I just didn't want pins or pencils rolling off of it. So now I'm at the final phase, or the finishing touches of everything, staining. I stained the tabletops in a Jacobian stain because I was not trying to buy anything new. This is just what I had on hand. It's what we've stained multiple pieces in the house before, or my husband has stained multiple pieces in the house before, and it really matched with the decor in our house. But I believe it's a mini wax stain in the color Jacobian for both the tabletops, and then the legs I decided to use Rust-Oleum chalk paint in linen, I think is the color. And I wanted the table legs to be white. And I gave that 2 coats of paint in the chalk paint linen, but prior to me doing that, I also did a layer of primer, just because pine wood can soak up some paint. So I thought that would be helpful. So now it's time to put everything back together, and I am just super proud as to how this project was turning out. I'm drilling the legs back in, and since I already had the pre-drilled holes from when I dry fitted everything together, it made the installation process so easy for me to put everything back. And baby, I guess I must have been a good learner because I was working that drill. Now, one thing I can say is that, is this project 100% perfect? No. But does it look good? Yes. Is it secure? Yes. Will you see my mistakes? You will probably have to turn this table upside down and inside out to see where I may have drilled some holes. Some angles aren't 100%, but the overall result of this project came out amazing, and I am super proud of myself in being able to accomplish this goal with minimum supervision from my significant other. I did this pretty much all by myself. And again, I just want to encourage anyone out there that if you have a vision, don't be afraid to try it. Watch YouTube, call friends, call family, and just take the risk and go after it. And you can definitely do it. So now I'm putting the table back on. I'm doing the happy dance again. I'm just finding my holes as to where they were. And it's turning out exactly how I had envisioned it. And yay! It is celebration time. I am finally at the final phase of getting this project completed. Now I just wanted to make sure that I just touched up the legs, just making sure that I got any scratches or things or trying to make the adjustments on them. I touched them up, making sure they just looked, clean and pristine as I can get them. This project did take me a couple of weekends to get done. I was not in a rush to get it done because I did want to make sure that I did do it as right as I could and think about it. And I also work a full-time job too as well, and I'm a full-time mom. So here I am now, get ready to polyurethane or seal the wood. And I use a triple thick coat Varathane polyurethane for this project. And look, I am coming straight home from work because I was just so excited to get this done. I am still in my work clothes, sealing this up. Just making sure that it will have time to cure and be able to use overnight. But this is a triple thick. I applied 2 coats of this on the stained wood portion. I don't think I did the legs of it because I know that when we put this in our living room that we're going to set cups on it. It's going to have spills. The kids are going to, mess with it. And I just wanted to prevent all of that wood staining or potential damage to the tabletop if I could avoid it, because I spent a lot of time on this and I want it to be able to last as long as I can possibly make it last, because it looks so good in my living room. And I'm just so proud of the work that is done. Also, if you are interested in seeing my progress and how I do some DIYs, please take a time to subscribe and like my channel. I am new to YouTube and social media platforms, and a click of a like will definitely be super helpful to me. A comment just to let me know how I'm doing or what I can do better is just as good good as well. So again, please take a moment to like and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys. I thank you for those of you who are watching. And I encourage you, don't be afraid to try something new. Get outside your comfort zone. You can do it. I spent a lot of time just looking from the outside and being a support. And then finally, I took the time to be able to try it on my own and look at the final result. And I know that you are also very capable of doing it yourself. So when you're painting on this polyurethane, it looks really white and cloudy. But one of the fun things about this is that you can see where you are painting, but it definitely does dry clear, and you'll never know. It'll actually dry clear and it'll look like nothing is on it with the matte finish. So as you can see, I painted the bottom of it first. And just in those few minutes, you can see that the cloudiness is starting to go away and it's starting to dry clear. And the same thing is going to happen to the top. Now, in between these 2 coats, I also sanded this with a 220 grit sandpaper just to get down any potential bumps or anything from the polyurethane after it had dried. And also just to ensure that it had a smooth finish to the touch when you did the final coat. So I did, again, 2 coats, and in between each coats in between the coat, I did a sanding using 220 grit sandpaper, and I hand sanded it. And y'all, here is the final results. It is there in my living room. I have not decorated it yet, but I am so proud in how this looks. In my living room, it is not too big, it is not too small, but it's definitely a perfect spot or perfect piece for that area in my living room for us to be able to enjoy, as well as my family to be able to enjoy. So again, thank you for watching. Again, please like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.